From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One ball, corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
And Corey Clark.
Welcome on in, live on a Thursday night. It's your Friday podcast. It's Wake Up Warchant Live right now, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Since we are live, co-sponsor along with our great friends over at DeLuna Coffee. DeLunaCoffee.com. Come explore our world of coffee. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 when you go to DeLunaCoffee.com. You'll get 15% off your order. You can't go wrong with anything. We kind of like the bundles, though. The bundles are cool because you get coffee or you get hot cocoa and a sweet treat, and then these sweet tumblers. You were like, oh, so you never use it because you just pull it out all the time. I've got two, and the other one's always being used. So
it's like your burner. You got your burner mug
Exactly.
and your real mug.
Well said, Corey. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Thanks for being here, everybody. If you could hit that thumbs up, watching us live on YouTube, would appreciate it. It sends it out there. More people know about it. Like, oh, there's people that talk about Florida State all the time, nonstop on YouTube for free. I'll go check it out. So thumbs up, subscribe. Only $10 to subscribe to Warchant.com for an entire year. All that's awesome. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, also awesome. You'll be there live tomorrow, 5:30 to 6:30, right, Corey Clark?
That's correct. With the great Jeff Cameron. Aslan might be stopping by. I don't want to promise anything, but he suggested he might, but we'll see. And did we just lose Aslan?
I'm here. It's just my camera goes out every now and then.
Okay, good. Well, that's the real face is still here. The real face is still here, everyone. You get to see this bad boy. That's all anybody really needs. Yeah. We'll be there 5:30 to 6:30. Well, look, the show ends at 6:30. Who am I kidding? We'll be there pretty late. We'll be there a good bit after 6:30, I would imagine. Plus, the Braves will be playing in a playoff game, so I'll probably be there watching a little bit of that.
Real quick, let's talk about what we're wearing. You first, Corey. What you got on there, champ?
Well, I just like to represent. Well, number one, I know it says ACC Digital Network, but it's all encompassing. I just love this conference no matter what, so I try to rep it as much as possible. So that's what I'm wearing. Should I have stayed with what I was wearing before you told me you made fun of what I was wearing? Because I was an undershirt.
We don't want to make the lady swoon, so I think it's good that you put a T-shirt on.
I don't want Stephanie to get jealous of like all the comments that would be in the chat about, oh my gosh, look at that. So that's a good point, Aslan.
Yeah, this is a Boca Raton Firefighters Benevolent Association shirt. I think it says Boca on the back. Does it? Can you confirm?
It does. It says Boca Fire, established something 1970. I can't read that.
I'm sorry. Well, guess what, Corey? You've got one, and you've got one that's white with a hood on it. These came from our good friend Thomas Giddings, who sent us those awesome Florida State ice hockey shirts. I got in the mail yesterday. He sent two for each of us. So there's a blue one and then a white one with a hood. It's a different design, but this one, I'm wearing this one to the gym. The ladies are going to love it. Who doesn't love a firefighter? And Boca, like it's me trying to be hard and tough.
Is that? I was going to say. I really do appreciate it. I'm sure I'll wear it out at some point, but isn't that kind of stolen valor type thing if you wear a shirt representing like you're a fireman when I've never been close to a fire?
It's part of the Benevolent Association.
Oh,
so
okay. All right. Okay,
yeah,
good,
like I'm a supporter.
I just don't want people to give me a side eye like, man, you're not a fireman. It's like, I never said I was just because I'm wearing this shirt that says I am.
No, two things I want to touch on before we dive into the comments, which, by the way, shout out to our guy, Ralph. He was on hold yesterday during the recruiting chat, listening, waiting. Then I hung up on him. What did I do to you? Nothing. My internet went out temporarily during the show, so I'm guessing that's what happened.
Sure.
You unfortunately caught that one. Sorry. So let's start off with your T-shirt, Corey. I haven't read the story. I saw it on the bottom line, but it sounds like Commissioner for the ACC, Jim Phillips, sounds a little bit open to finally signing off on this whole expansion for the playoff. And not only 2026, I mean, they're going to go to 12 teams. Yeah. I shouldn't say it that way. They're going to 12 teams. But if I could just brag real quick, 2026 is the target date, and they're talking about maybe moving it up to 2024, which I think, when we talked about expansion conferences, it was in the back of my head, it was always, well, you want to make sure you're in one of these top tier conferences because when they renegotiate the actual playoff package, the money that gets doled out as it is right now, each Power 5 conference gets a huge sum of money, like $90 million each, like each conference. As it is now, the group of 5, all those schools split something like $60 million between all of them, like Conference USA, Sun Belt. So I don't know if it would fall to that sort of tier, but the fact that they're going to maybe push it up to 2024, maybe that opens the window. I don't know. Are you more excited about the playoff being sooner expanded, or the possibility that the window's opening and realignment might be here once again?
No, I'm more excited about the playoff because I can't imagine where, even if they do expand, Florida State goes to another conference. I don't know I don't know what the timetable would be for that. I would love, it certainly wouldn't be within a year and a half, I wouldn't think. But where you're all of a sudden you're playing at Auburn in an SEC West showdown, I couldn't imagine that happen in the next year and a half. But getting to the playoff to 12 teams again, that just changes the whole sport. It just does, man. It's not just Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, and Alabama. I don't even know who's 14th in the country right now. NC State.
TCU's in the mix. Oklahoma State would be in the mix.
NC State's in the mix. Florida State, if they had won on, now that probably would have made the loss even more painful, but if they had won in Raleigh, they'd be in the mix. And in fact, you could argue that if even right now, as it stands, if Florida State were to win its final 6 games of the season, it's probably a playoff team. If not, it's right on the cusp. So that's the beauty of this thing, man, is like right now, yes, I see there's a bunch of undefeated teams. They won't be undefeated. There will be a couple that when the top 12 playoff format starts, there will be multiple 2-loss teams in there. If Florida State this year, just using this year as an example, if they go 10-2 with a win over Clemson, then and maybe a win over, I guess that'd include a win over Florida too. That's a resume that you're at least in the conversation, and your chances of doing something special aren't over the first week of October. That's cool, man. It's cool for the sport. It's like right now, Florida State's not even ranked, but they would still at least have an outside chance of doing something. Obviously, they have no chance of the playoff now, the way it's currently constructed. That's the beauty of this thing, man. That's why I like it so much, is that it gets more teams involved. It makes the season matter longer.
All right. Well, I love how you're like rooting for the little guy when it comes to this 12-team playoff, but when it comes to poaching players from other programs, you're like, hey, cost of doing business, baby.
Baby, we're trying to win games, man. You should have gone to a football school. Absolutely. That kid from Georgia Southern, again, I'm not saying that kicker's coming. I'm just saying you start to hear some rumblings.
I'm glad you brought that up, Corey. They say it's better to be lucky than good, but what if you're lucky and good? You're Corey Clark. Apparently, I need to pull up the DM. It's going to take me a second because I'll go on my good computer here. But somebody DM'd me and said, hey, Azon, that kicker from Georgia Southern that Corey was talking about, I want to give a shout out to Rusty Mosley. FYI, the kicker from GSU that Corey mentioned is the son of FSU All-American golfer Christian Rayner.
Oh, okay.
There's a connection, Corey. Make it happen.
I'm trying to figure out a way it doesn't happen now. And look, we love you, Fitz. Well, if you start making more kicks, the whole fan base will get behind you. But if it doesn't happen, 2-step, 3-step, whatever you've done to change your approach, there's guys out there. There's other possibilities out there, and the portal is open.
All right, the second thing I want to talk about over at warchant.com, pretty entertaining thread. I have not voted in this, but I think I can hit the results and see what they pull up since I have moderating power, since I'm currently employed by warchant.com. And the thread says, if we upset Clemson, do we rush the field? And there's several options. It says
No.
Embarrassing, only rush if it's undefeated Miami or Gator teams. I don't care. FSU shouldn't rush the field, period. Only after winning a national title. There's probably too many options, but let's see what the results are currently. I love you guys. This is why we can disagree, but when it comes to it, the brass tacks, the nuts and bolts, the soup and nuts, we agree, everybody. We agree. We're simpatico. 58% of the respondents, 207 of the votes, FSU fans shouldn't rush the field after beating anyone. I wouldn't go that far, Corey. But it needs to be like November, man. And it's probably the only time in my lifetime I can imagine Florida State rushing the field would be against Florida to, cement yourself going to the playoff off like a kick six kind of thing, or maybe Georgia Tech 2015. Now, it's been a while since we beat Clemson, so maybe it'd be pretty cathartic. If it's 27-27, Florida State blocks the kick, returns it, and wins the game in walk-off fashion, maybe, just maybe. But otherwise, I think you need to beat a team in November, a Miami, a Florida, like a really cathartic, huge moment that puts you cements you. You beat Miami, you've cemented, you're winning the Atlantic and going to the ACC Conference Championship, or maybe the SEC at that point. What do you think about pushing the field for you?
It's fine. Look, I don't really think about it much, but just know it's the students that are doing it. It's not like the boosters are doing it. So that it's hard to gauge if a 19-year-old really understands the history of Florida State football to the point where, guys, we don't rush the field. It's just fun to rush the field. So if they beat Florida this year to go 10-2, they have a pick six in overtime to win the game. There might be hundreds of students that jump out onto the field, and then their friends are going to follow them. I don't think it makes the whole fan base look bad, like, we're better than this. It's a bunch of students wanting to go have fun. That said, I certainly don't. I can't envision a scenario where I would be like, absolutely, you have to rush the field after that. I just assume it'll be some kids wanting to go have fun.
Azon, I agree with you, but I'm going to spend a minute and a half saying that I don't, just so I can,
throwing it out there. Like, I hate when whole fan bases get judged on the actions of 20-year-olds. They want to go rush the field because they see it happen all the time. It doesn't mean that the Florida State fan base has lowered its standards. It means the 20-year-olds, they were in middle school when Florida State was winning national championships. They don't know any better.
I'm going to say you beat Clemson and you rush the field, but then you lose to like Georgia Tech in 2 weeks, or you lose there's way too much season to be played. And then that's when you kind of maybe look like a punchline, but have fun, kids. Just don't get arrested. And I do think they're pretty strict about it at Doak. Like they
will shoot you
perimeter.
No, they'll shoot you in the knee. They're not aiming to kill. But they will shoot you.
Right? It's not Kent State out here. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
All right.
But by the way, people that are watching this, that was a reference to something that was said in a previous show this week. I don't want you to think we're making light of the Kent State shooting.
Thank you, Corey.
You got it.
Absolutely.
Although I guess I sort of did in the last show, but again, it was just a joke. Not a good one.
From Mar-a-Lago, we've got a Donald Trump asking if we were to beat Clemson, will we be in the top 25 the week after this win?
Good to see he's still thinking about important stuff. He's prioritizing what really matters. I know it was kind of an eventful day for him, but still. I don't know what the back end of the top 25 looks like, but I would think 5-2 with a win over Clemson and a should have won over NC State gets you 23, 24, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there you go. I mean, Texas lost to Texas Tech and Bama.
Yeah.
Who else? Kentucky lost to South Carolina. They got upset. Who's the other? I don't remember. Georgia. They already they're beaten by Georgia already.
No, they haven't played. I think wasn't that. So Kentucky's lost twice.
That's what it says on my screen.
Oh yeah, they lost to that last play of the game. They got sacked. Ole Miss.
Oh yeah. My boy Lane. Yeah, my boy Lane. Where's my boy Lane at? Where's he at right now?
They're up high, man.
Look at that
playoff contention.
Look at that, man. I am wrong about so many things, but I can at least hang on to that one a little bit. Although no one's ever going to give me credit for it. Godspeed, Don. Matthew Ogles. Question, Azon and Corey. So going full picture this season, I believe we are 8 or possibly 9-win team. What are the chances FSU plays Texas A&M in a bowl game? What are your thoughts on that matchup?
I think it'd be low scoring. I would. I mean, I don't know. I honestly, I don't even want to sit here and pontificate. I have no idea. I mean, I think they are possibly an 8-win team for sure. I don't know if A&M is an 8-win team, but yeah, these bowl guys all want, and ESPN wants marquee like matchups that matter, and Florida State and storylines, and because these bowls, look, man, when you're playing in a bowl that isn't for anything, which is another great thing about the playoffs, it gets more kids playing longer and not just giving up on the season with a game or two left because of the draft. If you're in a game like this, like, A&M's going to probably have 9 guys sit out. Florida State's going to have some guys sit out because it's a bowl game. But still, so with that in mind, the bowls have never been worse. Like, they've just never been worse. They've never been worse watches because so many stars don't play. But FSU and A&M would still present a great storyline that ESPN would love and covet.
Yeah, it looks like there's only really one option with the way these, because I don't think A&M could rally and make it to a New Year's Six bowl. So it looks like you're either tax slayer, you can maybe get into the Orange Bowl. But again, Florida State possibly could, but I think A&M's already got 3 losses, so I would find it highly unlikely they were able to maneuver themselves in there. But yeah, I mean, it was supposed to be Wake Forest or NC State and A&M last year in the tax slayer bowl, but A&M had COVID, or was that?
I think NC State had COVID, right? Oh, you're right. A&M had COVID. NC State couldn't play. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So tax slayer bowl, that's a possibility. And I agree with Corey's sentiment. I think it would be low scoring. I think Florida State would win. Florida State would win.
Okay.
Provided they don't lose anybody else health-wise.
Right.
Everybody plays that wants to play. All right, what else do we got here, everybody? Plenty of questions. All right, maybe not as many questions as I thought we had. Let's go to Kyle. Get down, lay down. Hey, guys, sorry I'm late. You're not late, man.
Yeah, you're right on time, buddy.
Do you think we need more Wildcat? Do you have a prescription? Do you have a fever and the only cure is more Wildcat, Corey Clark?
I mean, there haven't been a ton of like third and shorts where you feel like they just got blown up. Like last year, they were so bad. They seem to be pretty bad on short yardage, like third and short yardage. This year, it doesn't seem that bad. But yes, I mean, I don't know if Jordan Travis isn't going to run, but 6 times a game or 4 times a game, it might make sense to do a little bit more of that. I don't know. I mean, Corbin was their guy last year or the year before, honestly, that ran that the most. Have they run? How much did they run it? They've done it some this year, right? Didn't they do it against LSU a couple times? I'm trying to remember.
Then Lundy scored on a Wildcat.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so they've done it a few times, and they don't seem to have done it since. But I don't really recall a bunch of situations like second goal from the 2 where they skewed it for something else. So yeah, I mean, whatever. I wouldn't maybe mind it this week. Just give Clemson something different that they haven't prepared for. And also, if Jordan's not going to be maybe the willing runner you want him to be, well, whoever's taking that snap is going to be a willing runner. So that's something, I guess.
Thanks for the question, Kyle. Appreciate it. Nameless, who I think at one point his name escapes me, but he used to actually have a name.
Ironic.
He wants to know what the vibes were like for Braves fans last night out there, Corey.
I mean, the rain delay was rough. I wish they would have told us at like 2, hey, we're not going to play this till 7:30, instead of us getting down there at 3:15 and then waiting for 4 hours. But yeah, man, it was fun. It was cool. It was a cool experience. I think Brady and I are undefeated in the postseason going to Braves games. Now, we left one early that they came back to beat the Dodgers last year, but that's fine. It still counts as a W in my book. I started the game, so I was the fan of record. So I still get credit for that win. But yeah, it was fun. It was a good crowd. It really was. There wasn't much offense, but there were a couple of spectacular defensive plays by the Braves, which were really cool. They were kind of right in front of us.
Aaron P., who you remember last week was asking us how to go about having his children select the correct allegiance to a Florida program. And Florida State, the wife is a Florida alum. Boys, my twins have been alive for 2 weeks, and we haven't won yet.
Yeah, that's rough. I'm not going to call them a bad luck charm or anything, Aaron, but get it together.
The Civil War we spoke of at home last week has been off to a rough start, but no worries. The first win will be taking down Clemson 27-24.
Let's hope, man. How about 27-6? Like it's not even a game. How about that, Aslan? Would you like that?
Are we back to win big mode? Hey, I thought we were in win big mode after the BC game. I want to be in win big mode.
Then you played 2 much better teams. But yeah, I guess now when you're playing the good teams, you just win close. But still, it'd be cool if you just somehow dominated this game. But that's probably not going to happen.
Well, I mean, easier said than done, Kevin Hickson. Do you think Mike Norvell should have Jordan Travis watch Pat Mahomes and try to model his play after him?
I mean, sure. I assume Travis watches Pat Mahomes, but Jordan is not Pat Mahomes, so it's there's not much you can do. You can't be like, hey, you see how he flings it 35 yards on a rope sidearm and hits Travis Kelce right in the mitts? Do that. I just don't. Pat Mahomes is preternaturally really gifted, and he just has some gifts that not only does Jordan Travis not have, but 99% of the people on earth don't have.
Yeah. By the way, sorry, Patrick. We're just reading the words that are on the screen. His mom says Patrick, so Patrick it is. Pensacola Packbuster. Should we be worried about games on the schedule like Georgia Tech and Syracuse? Those seem to be sneaky tough.
Look, man, there's nothing sneaky about Syracuse. They're ranked. They're undefeated. They're at home in that game. Now, they probably won't be undefeated when Florida State gets to town, or they'll be the biggest story in college football, but they're going to have a winning record, and they're going to be at home. Yes, of course. I don't think that's sneaky at all. I think Syracuse, if they're not favored in that game, will be, maybe a 1 or 2 point underdog, depending on how Florida State does these next 3 games. But yeah, you should be. Florida State's not good enough to not worry about any of them. Georgia Tech's going to be on a 3-game winning streak unless they collapse against Virginia, who's the worst team in the conference. You got to worry about all these teams, man. Georgia Tech's not a pushover anymore. They've found something with the new coach. They're still not as good as you, but the upsets happen all the time, man. So yes, even Louisiana, apparently they at least have a good defense. Like all these games, you can't show up. That Florida State is not to the point yet where you can show up and just dominate a game. I think Boston College was the anomaly. That's not the rule. That's just not the rule.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see those numbers on the screen. Shout out to the folks listening to the podcast. Syracuse, 10th in total defense. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
It's really impressive.
16th ninth in scoring defense.
Yeah,
now, again, it's the first half of their schedule has been very soft. The best team they played is Purdue.
They played Louisville. They hammered Louisville better than we did, but it was at home. So
yeah, I mean, UConn, Virginia, and Wagner none of those teams are ranked. I don't know that any of those teams have a winning record aside from Purdue. That it has been they barely beat Virginia. Like that, it has been a soft schedule. We're going to find out much more about them as we've talked about already the next 4 or 5 weeks. But they're certainly not a pushover.
Look at that.
Yeah,
like who signed up? Who signed off on that?
Well, hey man, it's Syracuse. They get what the ACC tells them.
I wonder, so they play at Pitt before they get us. So
yeah, they got 8 week. They got at Wake the next week. That might be for the Atlantic Division title.
Yeah.
So Florida State might be a trap game for them.
Yeah. Although maybe I'm not going to look at that part of the schedule anymore. The whole we get so and so the week after Clemson didn't really seem to do a lot of favors for us. So maybe it isn't all that important whoever plays.
Apparently not.
Before they,
I blame Clemson. They didn't beat up those teams enough.
By the way, Samurai, I know we just touched on it too. He was asking about it, but I guess maybe we can dig deeper. Are you guys more nervous about Syracuse than Clemson? Georgia Tech presents a challenge just by variables.
Yeah, and I told Tom Lang I was rooting for the Mets. I was rooting for the Mets in their playoff series. I wouldn't have rooted for them against the Braves, but yeah, I got some Brave Mets fans that are friends with, and I legitimately felt bad for them, not for losing to the Braves in the NL East, but just for getting knocked out of the playoffs so quickly. No, you're still more nervous about Clemson, and yes, Georgia Tech does present a challenge. I think their defense is solid, and they got a quarterback that can run. He can't do much else, but he can run around. So yeah, man, you should win that game. Hopefully, you win that game comfortably, but if you don't. If you're on a 3-game losing streak, which you very well could be, you get a week off and then you come back and struggle against Georgia Tech. Yikes. So let's hope that, it won't matter because they won't be on a 3-game losing streak, will they, Aslan? They'll just beaten Clemson.
No, sir. I wanted you to answer this one, Corey. San Antonio Noles. Thanks for the question. They also asked about Josh Burrell. Why isn't Josh Burrell being used? Josh Burrell made a couple good plays on Tuesday's practice.
All right.
With Tate at the helm. So
okay.
But do you believe that Coach Norvell legitimately understands how to use a beefy 6'7" wide receiver?
Nice.
I don't mean 3 passes a game. I mean bread and butter as the clear effing number 1 wide receiver, even if he does drop a pass.
I think he needs to learn. He needs to be a little bit better about it than he's been, especially when you get inside an opponent's 25-yard line and you have so much trouble scoring. I like he throws to him a lot. Like he had 8 targets in that game. Johnny Wilson did. He caught 2 of them. Now he dropped 2. 4 weren't great throws, or he was covered, or they were kind of just throws out of bounds. But I just don't quite understand when you're struggling as much as you do in the red zone or have this year after being pretty good last year, struggling this year. And then you have that guy out wide. And as far as I remember, Aslan, still, they've thrown it up to him once in the red zone. Since maybe the LSU game, they've thrown it up to him once. And that was in the Wake Forest game. And he caught it and made DB look like a child. And I just don't understand why you'll throw it down the field from your own 30 to him on a just a stop, just like go up and get it play, but you don't do it from their 30, which would end up being a touchdown. I would do it a little bit more often. Sure.
Maybe it's not there as much as we'd like it to be.
But I mean, are they stacking their DBs on top of each other and standing on their shoulders? Like it could be 3 guys around, and like picture Shaq playing against a bunch of 6'5" guys. Like, yeah, you could triple guard Shaq with 6'5" guys, but it's Shaq. Just throw it up high. It doesn't matter how many guys are there. He gets higher than all of them. Now, you obviously don't want to And I'm just talking mainly about down the sideline, man. You don't want to force it to them in the middle of the field because safeties can come over and intercept that. Linebackers can step in front and intercept that. But on fades, throws down the sideline, I almost don't even care if a safety rolls over the top. You're going to back shoulder it anyway. You're going to throw it up where he kind of just stops and jumps. The safety won't have time to get over there, you wouldn't think. But what do I know? I've never coached a 6'7" guy, so I don't know how to do it.
Corey was one of the brave. I think actually I'm in the minority. I think there's 4 of us. I think there's 7 of us that made game picks. Corey picked Florida State to beat Clemson. So Pensacola Backbuster says, what do you believe the offense has to do to succeed against Clemson then?
Throw it up to Johnny Wilson. No, you've got to be I was going to say you got to be able to run the ball at some way, but you're just not going to be able to. You've got to have a nice, in my opinion, a consistent passing attack where it's not all either a 30-yard play or nothing. You've got to be able to move the chains with your passing offense. And I'm talking about picture the last drive against NC State. There was one pass to Toafili that was 10 yards. There was another pass that was 9 yards. Those are the kind of plays you need, in my opinion, to have sustained success against Clemson if you're going to move up and down the field. Otherwise, you just got to hit 3 big plays. You've got to hit a couple long touchdowns, and you're going to have to have a couple other big plays. You're not going to – the way Florida State's offense is currently constructed and the way it tries to run the ball, it's just not going to succeed against Clemson. And 2nd and 9 isn't the way to live. So, you got to figure out a way to move the ball where you can't depend on the run, especially also because your best running back is probably out, which isn't good news when you're playing the best team on your schedule.
Yeah, there you go. Toafili for 10. Johnny for 31. Targeting.
Yep.
Toafili for 7. Yeah, it was working. It was there. It was there until it no longer was there.
And, you could also just get to the, hey, we don't have anything else that we can turn to. We're just going to throw it up to our guys and hopefully they make plays. That can happen too, because if you're going to wait for somebody to break open across the middle of the field, you're not going to have a ton of time for those kind of throws, in my opinion, against this defensive line in particular. And their linebackers are really good too. Really
bummer that Trayshawn might not be playing in this one. I mean, I think he's actually, I don't know, maybe Lawrence is maybe your best receiver out the backfield, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of sneaking out the backfield, I think, is going to have to help out, because I assume they'll spy, or they'll be very, very focused on Jordan, whether he's going to keep.
Yeah.
So when you got a full head start as a running back coming out the backfield, man, you need to be able to get upfield and find some soft spots and make an easy catch. It's 3 yards and just get upfield and make it 6 yards. And
it'll be interesting too. Yeah. Like, you got to imagine they're going to have a spy, and they've got some linebackers that can do that. And they're always going to rush 4 because they're 4 down front and they got 4 great linemen. So you're talking about 5 guys that are solely within 4 yards of the line of scrimmage. And if you have 5 guys out in a pattern, now you could rightly say, well, you need to keep in somebody to block. I get it. But if you're going to run 5 wide, not 5 wide necessarily, but like that last play against NC State, if you have 5 guys out in a pattern, well, that means there's only 1 safety. So one side of the field, there won't be really probably much safety help. And that is a matter of your receivers going and winning and making plays. You're going to I think you're going to have some real one-on-one opportunities in this game to go make plays.
Scott Beckett. I was sure penalties would improve under Norvell, but I think the past 2 games we've had about 100 yards in penalties. What have you seen in practice or otherwise about how Norvell addresses this?
Aslan?
In practice, they actually, there was a.
Did we lose him, gang? Did we lose Aslan? It looked like he was going to make a pretty solid point. Now look how much he's thinking right there. Eyes tilted left. Corner of his face. When you tilt your eyes left like that, you're thinking of something. That's not lying. Don't think that he's coming up with a lie. But anyway, I don't even know how much. I assume you can still hear me. I assume these are coming through loud and clear. My thoughts.
Oh,
there
right,
he is.
Right. I'm back. Sorry, man. Maybe somebody's attacking my internet. It happened yesterday.
You're all blurry. You got blurry face.
That might be your internet now. Maybe it's mine.
Right.
I'm sorry, everybody. We're still here though. Yeah, on Tuesday, I think it was Tuesday, or maybe it was Wednesday. There was a 7-on-7 and a defensive back I thought was in good coverage. The pass wasn't completed. It went over the head of the receiver. And Norvell was really upset with the way that the coverage was played. I don't know what he did wrong, but something was not right. And Norvell voices displeasure with it. And then like the very next play, there was a false start penalty.
Yeah.
And we don't see them. There's not a lot of them jumping off sides.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago when McKenzie was here, man, there was a lot of pre-snap penalties. Like not so much illegal procedure, but false start. There was bad snaps too. We haven't seen a lot of it, but like he doesn't stop practice. I mean, I don't know if you folks want him like to stop practice and make everybody do up downs after they do a penalty. They might do some of that stuff. He mentioned something about accountability runs. Maybe they do, and we're not able to watch everything at practice. We see about 99% of it though. So maybe I'm guessing maybe accountability runs is what they do perform in that sort of 1% that we don't see, Corey. We've heard about it, right?
Could be. Yeah, that might be. It's the punishment aspect that we're not there for. Yeah, I'm sure he clearly doesn't coach it that way, and I'm sure there are ramifications for when you have a penalty. But then, like, when you just bring it up, and again, I know what I'm wearing, I know I'm repping it, but some of the penalties are nonsense. There was probably 2 personal fouls in that game that shouldn't have been personal fouls. So now you're down to 70 yards. When you play Wake Forest and when you play NC State in this league, you're going to get hammered with penalties. It has been that way for 30 years. It's just the way it is. So I don't look at that team and say that's an incredibly undisciplined team. Not these last 2 weeks. Now they had a stretch there which wasn't great, but like Robert Scott has a hold that's Jordan Travis's fault. Because Jordan Travis scrambles out to the wrong side and Robert Scott feels like he has to tackle this guy, and that ends up being a hold. It's a good call, but it's a hold that I don't know that that's undisciplined. It's just a guy trying to help out his teammate, and it's a quarterback making a bad read and a bad decision. And then Johnny Wilson gets called for OPI. But did he do something wrong? I don't know. We never saw a replay. Asked Norvell about it. He said it was bang, bang, which to me meant it shouldn't have been called. But, he's not going to rip the officials, I guess, because he, I don't know why. If I was Norvell, I would have come out guns a-blazing after the personal foul on Joshua Farmer. But because what's $10,000 to a guy making $5 million? What is that, Aslan? What does that equate to somebody making $50,000? Is that $10? Is that $100 for somebody making $50,000 a year?
It's 2% of their salary. 10,000 would be 2% of his salary.
So yeah, so then 10% of 50,000 is 5,000. So then that's no. You're making me do math, Corey. Man, our math is sorry, guys. Sorry, we've gone off the rails. But anyway, so yes, the penalties aren't great, but I knew this going into the game.
About $1,000, be about $1,000, a little bit over $1,000.
Okay, I knew. Really? I guess it would be. Yeah. I get it. Maybe $1,000 is. Still, you're making $5 million. Joshua Farmer deserves a $10,000 fine for how bad that call was. And I think the fines go to like charitable stuff too, right, Aslan? I know it does in the NFL. I assume maybe the ACC, I don't know what they do with that money when they fine someone. When Krikorian got fined for not going to the ACC tournament. But I think that when you watch this team, like I was saying, I don't think it's undisciplined necessarily. There's not a ton of false starts anymore. The holds aren't crazy. They're just crippling ones. Like Renardo Green grabs a kid. That's 15 yards. Josh Farmer's called for a personal foul, which was ridiculous. Micah Pittman, I thought his personal foul was ridiculous, which was offsetting, which was a big play after the interception. So there's things like that I just don't put a ton of stock into. OPI too. Good grief. They had 4 15-yard penalties in that game. You're not going to win a lot of games when you do that. That was me rambling. Sorry, everyone.
But it's not just one game. I guess you can say it's the referees, though. It's this conference. They're 104th for total penalties per game average, and then yardage-wise, they're like 120th. So that's Taggart-esque.
It absolutely is. But it's also Jimbo-esque and Bowden-esque. I'm to the point now, man, which it's not a coincidence that no matter who you hire, when you come to Florida State, you're going to get, unless it's Saban and he comes with a reputation, they're going to be, this is how it's going to be, man. It's just how it's going to be. It's 4 coaches in now, and they're always ranked back there. I don't think they're an undisciplined team, but the ACC is going to call them for the ACC loves calling penalties, man. They just do.
And I agree. I don't think they're undisciplined. but I don't know what you would describe them, though. I mean, they are highly penalized, but I don't think
and going back to Willie and also going back, Jimbo, it was false start university. That was ridiculous over and over and over again. Willie, it was a lot of pre-snap alignment stuff. Like the receivers just weren't on the line of scrimmage. You don't see a ton of that kind of stuff, but not that you get absolved or you get a break because your team keeps committing 15-yard personal fouls. The Dylan Gibbons one was well earned. That should not belong in this program. But the other ones, Ronaldo Green was beaten, didn't want to give up a touchdown. And then, the other three, I don't agree with. So there's half your penalty yards were on plays that I don't agree with, but it's Florida State and the ACC. It's what happens.
Justin asked, what do you think about Florida State's running defense? Wake Forest and NC State profited running the ball.
Yeah.
Couldn't stop it both games at all.
It's a problem, Justin. It's the
Wake
reason I think Clemson would win this game.
Wake didn't even average 4 yards a carry. I know they ran for, but that's the thing. They ran for 170 yards, not good, but they averaged like 3.8 yards a carry. So, I mean, they held Sam Hartman to under 300 yards, which I don't think anybody else has.
Held him under 240. They held him under the two. Like he threw for 230 yards.
So, I mean, I don't know, man.
I don't know, man. But it was a lot of 6 yards here, 8 yards there. Now you did get some stops, especially in the second half. But I don't know how many tackles for loss Florida State had in that game that weren't sacks, but it wasn't many. And the same thing with NC State, the same thing with Louisville. I mean, you're giving up. These aren't great rushing attacks. Wake Forest is a very good offense, but I don't. NC State is not. And Louisville has a quarterback that can run, but I don't know that they have a great rushing attack. And you're getting beat pretty bad in the interior, and that goes back to who you have there. That's all. You don't have Fabian Lovett. Robert Cooper has been banged up. His backups have been banged up, and you just don't have a lot of depth and a lot of talent there. So that lends itself to doing that.
Yeah, man. You held them to 405 minutes. I don't know. You don't want to brag about that, but it's Wake Forest. It's a pretty potent offense, man. They ran for 171 yards. They averaged 3.4 rush yards. I mean, that's.
Well, and I know you don't do this. This is how college football, because they're idiotic. This is how they compute their stats. Without the sacks, they ran for 202 yards and averaged 4.3. That's not great. Not at home. Not against a team that isn't great at running the ball. They ran for 202 yards. That's not incredible. It's not awful. But again, I think Florida State leads the country in least number of 30-yard plays allowed. I think they lead the country. Like this is
I thought they had the most plays of over like
no. Yes, they're one of the more explosive offenses, but I think defensively they've given up only one pass this year of over 30 yards. And I can't remember a lot of 30-yard plus runs either. Like literally they might have given up 2 plays or 3 plays all year of over 30 yards. And they don't give up big plays. It was just a constant kind of head against the wall, 3 yards here, 4 yards here, 3 yards there. The one kid averaged 6 yards per carry. The other kid was kind of the battering ram. So yeah, he had a 35-yarder. Yeah, man, I bet Florida State's given up less than 5 plays this year of 30 yards or more. They have done a great job of not just having, and I need to find some wood to knock on. They've done a great job of not having horrible busts in the secondary and giving up enormous plays. They made teams go earn their drives, right, Aslan? Like even NC State and Wake, those drives to start the second half that bothered all of us, at least they weren't one play 84-yard drives. So they've done a much better job there. They're a solid defense. But if Will Shipley's going to run for 140 yards, you're probably not winning this game. If DJ gets a bunch of 2nd and 3s, you're not going to win this game probably.
Hey, folks, your favorite athletes, they strive to put themselves in winning position, and it's about time you did too with MyBookie. MyBookie's got the biggest online selection of odds and contests to fill all your sports betting needs anytime, anywhere. You can bet on the NFL, Major League Baseball playoffs, which Corey's not quite there yet, only when they make it to the World Series. And you can also get big cash prizes via their blackjack tournaments they have. If you've been waiting for the right time to get involved and get in on the action, that time is now. Make your winning season today. Sign up at MyBookie. Use the promo code WARCHANT. Your first deposit will be matched dollar for dollar instantly when you use that promo code WARCHANT and you sign up for an account there over at MyBookie. Right now, it stays steady, man. It is steady Eddie, Corey. Clemson still a 3.5-point favorite. The over-under 51 points. Sign up at MyBookie. Use the promo code WARCHANT. Claim your bonus. Experience every sport you wanted in a new light. Make it winning season for you. Is there any game that you want me to check on, Corey? I keep saying you need to give us some winners, but then I don't hold your feet to the fire, and then I forget about it. So
yeah, and I don't even remember what I picked last week. I'm sure I lost both of them, but I don't remember what I picked. What do you got? Mississippi State, Kentucky?
Yeah. Kentucky doesn't have their quarterback, though.
Quarterback's not going to play. Yeah. So, man, look at that money line for Mississippi. I might bet Kentucky on the money line just to see if you get lucky. But yeah, no, none of these are striking my fancy, buddy. Ooh, give me that Memphis East Carolina game real quick.
Oh, all right.
Oh man, you're gonna give Memphis 5 points? Are you crazy? Are you nuts? Take Memphis in the 5. Thank me later, everyone.
All right. Mike Waller asks, does Adam Fuller drop more pressures with man to make DJ Uiagalelei beat us in Doak?
I think it's going to be very similar to what you've seen all year. I think that they're going to play that shell. They don't, like I said, they don't give up a ton of big plays in the secondary. They make the whole goal is to make a team drive down the field, and it's worked pretty well for this defense. I mean, they're top 30 in the country in total defense, with some really significant injuries. So I think that'll be the plan. Is unless Clemson just can batters them in the middle of the line and has a bunch of 9, 11, 8-yard runs in the first few drives, and he has to change. I don't see a lot of risky defense out wide. I think they're going to see if DJ can drive him down the field, like 11 play drives, 13 play drives. That said, they play they play a good portion of man-to-man anyway. It's just the man-to-man has the safety help over the top typically.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's in love with Florida State's cornerbacks right now, so I don't think you want to bring pressure. I mean,
I'm not.
There's a difference between having a pass rush and bringing pressure. They need to be able to get home with 4, maybe 5 occasionally, because man, DJ's done a good job. He's a big dude. He hasn't been all that scared. Jeff talked about in the Warchant report. I mean, he'll stay in the pocket and he'll wait for someone to get open and he'll absorb the hit.
Yeah,
and he'll put it up there for his. They got some pretty athletic receivers, maybe not as talented as Wake Forest, but guys that could, maybe make some contested catches, maybe elicit a defensive pass interference penalty. So I don't know if I want to see them bringing a lot of heat, but, they did against Wake. I mean, they were doing safety blitzes. I mean, Jamie was blitzing from 15 yards off the ball and trying to affect the quarterback. So,
I think that's more of that was specific to that mesh craziness. Yeah. I think I don't foresee a ton of safety blitzes or maybe even a lot of blitzes, period. The crazy thing is, DJ is bigger than almost everybody trying to tackle him. When you think of like Florida State, let's say they have a front 4 of Verse, and he's bigger than Verse. He's certainly bigger than Peyton. Those two guys are coming off the edge. It's going to be hard for Patrick Peyton, even if he beats the snot out of his tackle, to get that dude on the ground. He's a massive person. And then if you blitz your 2 linebackers, same thing. He's bigger than both of them. So it's going to be he's a tough guy to bring down, but I don't think he's a tough guy to maybe force into a couple errant throws, and you just got to, catch him. He's
not bigger than Jared Verse. He's 6'4", 235, but he's bigger than all your linebackers.
What's Verse? Verse has got to be close to that, right?
I thought he was like 250-ish.
Man, Verse is a machine. He's a manimal. He's crazy.
6'4", 248.
Okay, all right, well, there you go. So similar size guys, right? But Verse is faster. Verse probably has a little more power too, so he can probably put him on the ground.
Derek Neal, do you think Dabo Sweeney, they canceled the game because they were afraid COVID season soliloquy still angers Mike Norvell? Let's win this game, go Noles.
It angers me.
Before that, can we at least maybe, and I'm not the positive silver lining guy, can we maybe at least appreciate that in 2 years, that was maybe something that people outside Florida State circles thought, and like now you're 3.5 point underdog and have a legitimate shot of beating them. And 2 years ago, people thought maybe Florida State dialed it in to avoid getting, taken to the woodshed.
I mean, they would have lost by, I think the spread was in the mid-30s, right? I mean, they would have lost. Now the spread's a 3-point spread. 2 years ago when they were actually in Tallahassee before the game was canceled, it might have been 38. I don't even know what the spread was, but it was enormous. It should have been 40. It should have been 50. They would have named their score. I think you can appreciate that.
35.5. Sorry, Corey, 35.
That's crazy. A home underdog, 35.5 points. Here you are 2 years later, and you've sliced 32 points off that number. That is a sign. And I was thinking about this today because, I picked Florida State to win. I definitely think they can win. Like I said on headlines, I give them a 51% chance of winning, but that clearly means it's basically a coin flip. It's a 49% chance of losing. When you look at the totality of this program and where it is from where he got it, it is in better shape, and they are taking steps. I know people. Somebody even asked this on headlines about if he loses this game, is he automatically on the hot seat again? And it's like, no, of course not. He just lost 3 games to 3 good teams. And you assume he was in 2 of them for sure. He probably is going to end up being in all 3 of these games, which was not the case 2 years ago. And I think as you're judging a program and its advancement, as long as there isn't a backward step, you feel good about the progress, right? Like this year, if they go 6-6, to me, that's a backward step or a side step. It's a sideways step, even though it would be a better record than last year, especially starting out 4-0. If you finish 2-6, that is a backward step to me. And then we can have the conversation. But you can't look at this program right now and how competitive it is and not see that it's made progress, real progress, tangible progress, not just in record, the way it looks, the numbers. I told you, Aslan, that according to Pro Football Focus, Florida State's the 14th best team in the country overall. They have the 4th best offense, which is goofy. We love PFF, but I don't know where they get that number. Their defense isn't that high, but overall, they have them as like the 14th best team. I think when you look at the efficiency numbers of all these other these weirdos and the weirdos in their labs that come up with this, I think Florida State's somewhere in the top 20 to 25, which is really different. So that to me is cool. So go up top, Aslan. Oh, so they're 16th. Is that what that says?
Yeah, but maybe this is all 133 or 130 FBS teams. If you want to maybe say Power 5.
Yeah. So, but I mean, when you look at that, man, that's last year. I mean, 2 years ago on the PFF, I have to imagine they were in the 80s. And again, we don't win games on PFF formulas. I get it. You win on the scoreboard, but that you just see that it's a better program, and it is taking the steps, and he is funneling players into this thing. Quit. Don't throw interceptions into the end zone on the 23-yard line.
And you figure you would just be able to click on Power 5 and it would just sort by Power 5, but it's not working like that for your guy right now.
So they're behind James Madison and Illinois. Don't sleep on Illinois now, Aslan.
And
North Dakota State and Tarleton State. Okay, well, look, so put as much stock or as little stock as you want into those numbers. The point remains, they are a top 25-ish caliber team. You can't argue with that. It's just, you want to be in the top 25 eventually, but considering where they came, these are positive steps. They're not leaps. He has not made a giant leap forward, but he's made positive steps. And eventually, if you keep taking enough positive steps, you will get to the finish line. It just will be a while. Like the people that walk the marathon, Aslan. It still counts, right? It just takes them like 11 hours to do it, but they still get there. They still get the T-shirt. Florida State can still finish the race and get to the finish line. You'd like them to sprint. You'd like them to maybe pick up the pace a little bit, but right now they're doing all right.
You take this one, Corey. How's AJ Duffy looked at practice? Asked Gator Kirk.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say. He doesn't work a lot with the ones. Why would he? And so he's playing with, behind different kinds of lines, and he's playing with, and this is in the 7-on-7 too, but it's just hard to say. Like, he makes some really nice throws occasionally, but there's also some work he has to do. Like we all think he has some talent, but he's got to work on some stuff too. He's got to work on some mechanical stuff, in my opinion. He misses some throws that just should not be missed. But he's also a true freshman, and that comes with the territory. He does not look as good, anywhere close to as good as the 2 guys in front of him. But isn't that common? Isn't that normal? I'll say this. He needs to take a leap. Next spring, he needs to look different. Between now and then, he needs to look different. Let's assume that Jordan Travis is gone. Well, if he's competing for the starting spot, he has to look different than he does right now.
When he's behind center, he looks really confident. And the ball snapped in his hands, and he looks really confident. And then when it's time to make a read or two, starts coming down a little bit.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I've been noticing. But he's a young guy. He'll figure it out. And it's also, shout out Patrick Payton for knowing he was going to be redshirted last year, but working really hard and preparing like a starter. It's one thing to say that. It's another thing to actually live it.
And that's what Fuller said. Although Papuchis said that right about him. Like he worked like he was going to be playing in those games, even though he wasn't.
Although, listen, man, when Jordan Travis is the starting quarterback, I mean, no offense, but like you're not just any run-of-the-mill third-string quarterback, man. You're like 2.5. I mean, you're that close to being the backup quarterback, and Tate's been nicked up too. So, but when you're the third-string guy, man, you're rolling out there, and there's guys with black jerseys on around you, and on the other side because you're playing against third-team guys and walk-ons. It's probably hard to elevate your game, but you're the quarterback, man. You're the face of the franchise. You got to be able to rise up, as they say in Atlanta. Our guy, Timothy Dangerfield, wants to rise up.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Thank you, Timothy. $50 in the jar. There we go.
TD, what up?
Hello from Tennessee. Just want to say hi. Let you know I still hope to meet you at the Florida game. I fell and fractured my right leg. Ow.
Yikes.
Having surgery tomorrow, should be healed 1 week before the Florida game. FSU 23, Clemson 21.
Okay. All right. So 2 touchdowns and 3 Fitzmagic field goals. I like it.
Lots of Fitzmagic. Hope you get better, Timothy. Was it fibula, tibia? Hopefully it's not your femur. You probably would be high on drugs right now, not being able to communicate. Femur's it's a big bone. Big bones.
Man, I'm telling you, and those leg breaks can be pretty disgusting. And sometimes not. They don't, like Charlie Morton. I only know this because during the rain delay last night. I knew it before, but during the rain delay yesterday, they just showed the Braves World Series video on the highlight screen, like the hour-long thing the MLB puts together, and they concentrate a lot on Charlie Morton breaking his leg on a comebacker, and then he still pitched an inning, and then he felt it when he struck out Altuve on a curveball, and then just walked off the mound, and he had broken his. What is the lower one? Is that the tibia or the fibia?
Both of them. There's 2 legs in the bottom. Your femur is your upper
2
leg
bones
bone.
in the bottom. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
the femur. Okay. So anyway, but then you remember the Louisville basketball player?
Oh no! Don't remind me. Yes.
But it's crazy. No, what's crazy about that is just the reaction of the guys on the bench. But then they said afterwards that it was actually better for him because you healed quicker. Like it would be better to break it like that. I guess those are called compound fractures? Yeah. It's better to break it like that than, another way, I guess, because he was good to go in like 3 months. Oh, Kevin Ware was his name. I'll never forget it.
Correct. Thank you, Timothy. Appreciate it, man. Benjamin Tuchert. We'll go to FSU Chief first. If our offensive line plays at the level they did against NC State, will that be good enough against Clemson?
No. Although I don't think they were terrible in pass pro for the most part, but NC State was only rushing 3 many times too. So you should be able to handle 5-on-3. Now you will not get many 3-man rushes against this group. Their 2 defensive ends are maybe the 2 best defensive ends in the conference besides Verse, if Verse is in there too. And then their tackles are back and they're awesome. So, you're going to have the game. No, to answer you don't have to. The offensive line doesn't have the game of its life to win this game. Again, this Clemson team isn't unbeatable. Their defense is very good up front, though, and that effort they had in the running attack against NC State will not work. And it's not just them getting beat, right, Aslan? It's not just I can't block the guy in front of me. It's the communication. It's guys shooting gaps and them not getting over there and blocking in time, or not getting to the spot in time, or not knowing who to block. Those are the things that will really have to be on point to have any sort of chance to have a running attack against that team. Large wall of text. I think it's Weber. Did we ever decide if it's Weber or Weber? Nick? I'm going to go with Weber. I think it's got to be Weber. All right. Weber loves the show. We keep him entertained as he works in Savannah. We're 4-2, but 2 tough losses. Have we proven we get stagnant on the offense with the lead, LSU and NC State, which has to change. We're only a 3.5-point dog. Yet we still have a lot of fans and folks that like us this weekend. It's crazy to me, but I love it. Why do you think we're so optimistic? He wasn't even done. It kept going after that. Yeah. I see the ellipses. Yeah, there's not being negative. I see this team as being one of the better ones in the country. It might be the best Florida State team of all time. Nick Weber, I don't know that I agree with that. That's a weird statement to make, but I assume that's what you were about to type. We can't read the bottom half of what you said. Look, man, I think it has to do with Florida State. This is Florida State played Clemson tough last year. Florida State is not overwhelmed by these guys. They're not scared of this team. I think that helps mentally. I also think it helps that, Clemson's numbers against Wake and NC State, other than, the important one, like the wins and losses, pretty similar to Florida State's numbers against those three, including Boston College. And, I just think it's a tough game. It's at night. Florida State looks like a good team. They're not a great team. Clearly, they're not a championship team, but they are good enough to beat this team. Doesn't mean they will. Nobody's predicting a big win. If they win at all, it'll be a close one, but they are good enough to beat this team if they play well. That's a spot. When was the last time you went into a Clemson game and realistically thought if you played pretty well, you would beat them? 14? And that was without Jameis, right? Like 15, that was Deshaun up there, and Dalvin was great. But I think most Florida State fans, especially because that was after the Georgia Tech game, most Florida State fans didn't think Florida State was going to play it even that close.
I came up for 16. I had faith. Not a lot of faith, but I had faith.
Yeah.
Probably more than I have for this one. I think part of it, too, is the whole transitive property thing. We've seen the box scores. Most of us, we maybe haven't watched all the games, but we've seen how they played against NC State and Wake Forest, and then how close Florida State was from beating Wake Forest and NC State. And you think, and you see in your mind's eye kind of how good Florida State can be when this offense is clicking and humming, and Jordan, whatever's being called, he sees it and it's there for him. So you kind of believe, all right, man, home crowd, a little bit of juice. If they can find that rhythm, they can certainly hang. So I think that's all feeding into it. So.
And I think, look, man, here's the one factor that you just have to take into account. If their quarterback has a really good game, not just an average game for him, but a really good game, he plays one of his best game, maybe his best game of the season, you're not going to win. You have to hope he plays, water finds its level. You hope, and I know he's better than he's been, but he's still not an incredible quarterback. If he lights you up or just makes some amazing throws and some amazing scrambles and plays and throws really well and plays really well, yeah, man, you're not winning the game. And he's been better than we thought he was going to be. Again, they talk about ruts. Again, Florida State had a rut against NC State in the second half, and a rut against Wake Forest in the first half. Clemson at Boston College went field goal, punt, interception, punt, got a ball at the Boston College 28-yard line, went in and scored right before half. So they weren't lighting it up either offensively. They have ruts too. This is not a go up and down the field, going to put up 50 on you typically again. So, you hope it's a close game late. Maybe you affect the quarterback and he makes a bad play.
Well, winding things down as we approach the top of the hour here on Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill and powered by DeLuna Coffee, DeLunaCoffee.com. Benjamin Touchert, Touche?
I'd say Touchert.
Touchert? I'm going to say
hot for Touchert.
Wasn't
that Van Halen song?
Yeah.
I'm hot for Touchert. I'm not saying I am. I'm saying, I'm sure there's women in your life that are.
Has FSU given away the last two games in your opinion?
No. I think you could certainly argue the NC State game. Yes. They gave it away, not the Wake Forest game. I mean, they were down. They gave up 28 straight points in that game. So I think Wake just kind of took it. And Wake had that drive at the end of the game after you cut it to 7. Now, again, Greedy Vance helped, but whatever. I think Wake deserved to win that game. I do not think NC State deserved to win that game. I think you threw them the game. You literally threw the ball to them. And your punter did something impossible to believe. I still can't believe it happened. And you got you got a bad personal foul call. Well, you got 2 bad personal foul calls, and then you earned another one. And all those mattered. I just think you were the better team. I think you had 300 yards of offense in the first half, and you had 2 touchdowns. You just kind of gave them the game. But so, yeah, did you earn the Louisville game? Did Louisville give that game away with some bad plays late or not covering 14, putting Jarvis Brownlee on 14 for the whole game? Like, there's always ways to look at it. But I do think that's what's so frustrating. This should be a 5-1 football team.
Was the personal foul on Micah, was that assessed or was that offsetting?
No, the referee did the whole talk saying, hey, we're going to mark off both of them. We're going to mark off one and mark off the other. So if you don't call the Micah Pittman one, and look, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know that the one on Jordan Travis deserved to be flagged either. It kind of looked like Travis grabbed him and they both fell down on each other. But Micah Pittman's trying to rip the ball out as they're running out of bounds. Now, he could have, I guess, stopped doing it, but he didn't like pick him up and body slam him. He's just trying to rip the ball out. It's like when you see in the NBA, Patrick Beverly, when he wants to inbound the ball, just kind of rip it out of a guy's hand. That's what Pittman was doing after the play was over because he was frustrated. That's not a penalty. It's not a personal foul, man. He's ripping the ball out. He's not punching the guy in the throat. But anyway, if that doesn't happen, then NC State starts that drive on the 40, their own 45, I think. I don't remember where they got the ball. Maybe they got the ball there in the 40. So if you take that away, they're at their own 45. And maybe that changes the complexion of the game. I don't think they scored after that. I think Florida State forced a punt. But maybe instead of getting the ball at the 8, you get the ball at your own 20. And then maybe at the end of the game, when the ball's at the 23, maybe it's at the 11. And maybe you're throwing it up to 14 instead of throwing a 23-yard fade to Micah Pittman. Or maybe you're just centering it for a field goal. All that stuff matters, Aslan.
Second
but
part
the
of the
ACC
question,
refs keep trying to screw us.
second part of the question, was the offense better last year with Travis running more often than this year with him passing?
No, I don't think so. I think you're judging it a little bit on what you've seen the last 2 weeks. Again, the offense put up 300 yards in the first half against NC State. Don't lose sight of that. Like, that's a big deal. That's a huge number against a good defense. Now, the second half happened too. I get it, but the ceiling of this offense is much higher. I think it's played by and large at a much higher level than the one last year did. It would be nice if he ran more, though. Just throw that out there.
Hey, it's the good dentist, Zach Z-Chan.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Thanks, Zach. Happy Friday from Disney. Y'all hold it down Saturday.
Is he confused about what day it is? Come on, Zach. You're a smart guy. It's Thursday, man.
It's a Friday podcast.
Well, that's true. Good point. But I feel like people watching this are confused. And, obviously we got that great Thursday night game coming up with the Bears and the Commanders. That's going to be a nail biter. But thank you, Zach. That was very, very, very nice. I appreciate it, buddy.
Zach, you're the man. Eric Angels.
I can't believe so does that mean he's going to be in Disney for the Clemson game?
Well, the Atlantic title is kind of no longer in reach.
Zach, man, you could go to Disney on the bye week, bud, or the Georgia Tech game.
That's the question that I meant to ask Norvell yesterday, and if I slipped my mind. Scott, Zach, where's Deuce been? He's out there.
You think that's the Scott Zetch, the former Florida State baseball player? Wasn't there played in the J.D. Drew era? Scott Zetch. He had a brother too that played, I think. Look that up, Aslan. But yeah. So the question is, where's Deuce been? Hurt or just trying to get back in the rotation? Thanks, guys. Keep up the great work. Of course, it is great. He played in the LSU game and seemed to be a part of the plans. And then he's been on the field, gang. Like, he was on the field for, 15 or 20 plays Saturday night in Raleigh. But they certainly don't make it a point to get him the ball like they seem to do in the first. I mean, they were running sweeps with him, right? They were running end rounds with Deuce. And then he's just not a part of anything. I don't know is the answer to that. But we're going to get to the bottom of it.
And I'm going to ask about it is. Look at that. Look at Corey.
Hey, Brady needs some lessons, Scott. I know you were I think you were a second baseman. I think you were an infielder. He needs all of it. He needs all the help we can get, buddy. I hope you live near the Atlanta area. I pay top dollar for my son.
He went to Boca Raton High School. I'm rocking the Boca shirt. So look at that. Shout out, man. And I do want to ask about, I feel like it's almost worth asking about, like, Keyshawn Helton. Like, what is up? What is up with Keyshawn Helton? Not that, they're a Keyshawn Helton play away from not winning a game, but, like, how does a guy fall out of plans that quickly when he hasn't done anything wrong? Shortstop, third baseman, and he closed out the career playing second base, Corey. Look at you.
There you go. And then go down a little bit. My man brought it in the tournaments now. No, he postseason baseball, baby. That's where Scott lived. That's good. So yeah, he would have played with JD. So yeah, those were good teams. David Ross. We all hate him, Scott. We all hate him.
Jared Armstrong, LSU, Florida. Who you got?
Florida. I just do not trust. I know Florida's quarterback hasn't been great, although he was pretty darn good against Tennessee. But man, LSU's quarterback is just not good, and they do not, even with all those weapons, they do not throw the ball well enough, I think, to go in there and win. And back to Deuce and Keyshawn, yeah, man, Keyshawn is just not a part of the plans, right? He's just not. There's no other way to say it. They ran Toafili in the slot, and they had Marquiston in on that final play, essentially in the slot. Keyshawn's just not a part of it. It's very bizarre. It's not just. I don't even know. I assume he's probably banged up a little, but he's played some this year. But he's not in their plans at all. And Deuce, you really want Deuce to be something, and I think he will be. I'd like to see him be a little bit bigger part of the game plan because there's not many guys on the roster quite like him.
Bama, Tennessee.
If Bryce Young doesn't play Tennessee, is Bryce Young I assume Bryce is going to play that game, right?
Which that's crazy. You'd figure like Nick would make him like, man, I am not losing to Jimbo. You are playing, son. Take the shot, play. But I guess I'm wrestling him up because I don't want to lose in the third Saturday in October.
Yeah,
I'm going to go with LSU being Florida. I got Bama being Tennessee.
I think I got the exact opposite, gang. I got Tennessee, and I got Why aren't y'all asking us about these great ACC matchups? This is an ACC show, gang. We don't care about the SEC.
Show them the shirt, Corey. Show them.
Come on, man. Represent. Josh
Heupel to Oklahoma. I don't know, man.
That's a little early. I mean, he's 6 games in. Lincoln Riley just stole all the good players. Like I don't know that you can blame Venables for that. Like Venables could have tried to steal some Clemson guys, but they're not going with him to live in Norman. So yeah, man, I give him some time. But if he does get fired, and Adam, let's say Fuller gets a job as like the head coach at Marshall or something, and you have an opening at DC, maybe old Venables wants to come back to the ACC.
I think Charles Huff's all right at Marshall, but I know what you're saying.
I just said that because that's where he used to coach, Fuller.
Yeah. Why not Chattanooga? He used to coach at Chattanooga.
Or Wag. I think he coached at Wagner too, right? Or Robert Morris, one of those schools.
There we go. All right, there's some ACC love. Pensacola Packbuster, Virginia Tech, Miami, Corey.
I say Miami. I think Virginia Tech's really not good. And the other one, Syracuse and NC State will be, I don't know the prognosis on Devin Leary, but if he's not playing, I like Syracuse to win that one pretty comfortably.
All right. Let me see what the line on Miami is. Miami's favored by 7 on the road against Virginia Tech.
That's how bad Virginia Tech is. Because Miami's got a losing record, right? Are they 3-3? They've lost 3 times, right?
Yeah. I mean, they haven't beaten. I don't think they beat a Power 5 team. They beat like Southern Miss, Bethune, and maybe that's it. Maybe they only have 2 wins.
But that's how bad
Virginia
Tech is.
My glasses don't help me see irrelevant teams. It's only for like nearsightedness.
Right.
Our guy, all right. First off, Mark, if you don't want to talk about it, you have to talk about it. I hope everything is well, man. I don't know how things are going back down in Naples, man, but I hope things are great. If you want to let us know, you can. If not, we'll just shut up and take your money. We appreciate the heck out of you, man. Glad to see and hear from you. $50. Sorry I'm late to the party. Thank you, Mark. It's again, man, I'm here in the lap of luxury in the Midtown offices, man, and you're throwing money at me for me just doing my job, man. You're incredible, dude. You're also a pillar right there. Top name. Boom. M. Adam Ceasy. Corey, did you decide what you're going to do in the postgame wrap with Ira once we take down Clemson? I expect we're going to compete and win a close one, but what if we give Dr. Dabo and Clemson a beatdown? Woo! Maybe a mask, like put a mask on, like maybe making fun of the, COVID.
That's not a bad idea. I'd have to go. I'm sure I still got one in my car somewhere. I scrounge one up. Yeah.
Like Dabo, can you hear me? Can you hear me from the mountaintop? This mask,
Dabo. No, I have not. I will come up with something if they beat Clemson. That deserves it. If Syracuse is Champaign, we got to do something. I don't know. I just don't know what it'll be though. Okay. I don't know. Right. Maybe 100-yard sprint. What if I did that and you could you slow motion that, Aslan, as I run from the one end zone to the other, and then I just stop and we start the show?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I might do that. You might just see a bald guy, probably shirtless, a bald guy way off in the distance, start slowly running towards you, and then he gets there and just does the show.
What if you had a bag of Cheetos, like Chester Cheeto? I mean, I know it's not a tiger; he's a cheetah, but like you smash the bag and like cheese puffs just went everywhere. You're like, we just crushed the Tigers. I hate orange.
Yeah, I don't know. I like my idea better.
No.
I just something to take my shirt off.
We're not going to answer this question. Is Fabian Lovett playing? I will not be a party to competitive disadvantages potentially for Florida State. Saturday, tune into warchant.com's game thread pinned on the Tribal Council.
Yep, you'll know. You would know by 6:30. Or no, sorry, 6 for a 7:30 game. You'll know by 6:15 whether Fabian Lovett is going to play or not. The other 0 almost certainly he's going to play, though. Old Jakai. Well, just saying, just throwing that out there. Maybe if they throw him out at defensive tackle, do you think that would confuse Clemson enough to be like, oh, Lovett's playing. Lovett's back. Uh-oh, he's lost some weight. It's been a tough rehab.
Oh, man. All right.
All right, that's right, Aslan. I got to go pick up my kid.
We're over. There's good questions at the end. That was a good, strong end. I wanted to end on a strong note. There's a lot of high-flying questions. A lot of people picking Florida State. Who else? Somebody else picked Florida State. Everybody's picking Florida State. Go Noles. It's awesome. Go check out the Warchant Report. Check out the Jeff Cameron Show 1 to 3 o'clock on Friday. This is the Friday podcast, Wake Up Warchant. And don't forget the pregame show, Hotel Indigo. Doors open at 3:30. Pregame show starts at 4:30 with Jeff and Tom. That'll take you up to about kickoff, maybe an hour before kickoff. And then there'll be the watch along with Dominic Robinson, Tom Lang, and myself, some combination. Post-game show with Gene Williams and Tom Lang. Warchant Wrap with Corey and Ira. All the post-game interviews. Could be pretty cool, man. 5-2. 5-2.
Just believe in it, gang. It's going to happen. They are going to beat Clemson again. This is not an unbeatable Clemson team. You are at home. You're wounded, but you're hungry. You should have nothing. You should play like you have nothing to lose. You're not as good as them from top to bottom, but you don't have to be as good as them from top to bottom. You just have to be better than them for 60 minutes. That can happen. It can happen. And with you guys there making all the noise, it really can happen. You can make a difference. So, and also, catch the ball, receivers. Catch the ball, and good things will happen. I promise.
Also, don't forget, Jordan Travis, the Tiger King, 1-0 against the Tigers this year.
What? Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Don't forget, we got that on our side.
Yeah, good times. Good times.
Thank you to Timothy Dangerfield. Thank you to Dentist Zach. Thank you to Mark. Thank you to all of y'all for posting your questions, being here. Hit the thumbs up on the way out. We certainly would appreciate it. You've been listening to Wake Up Warchant Live, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill and DeLuna Coffee. Have a great one, everybody. Go Noles.